Hey, welcome to New Hope Underground.
And we're back!
We are back! Ready to go for another episode?
Let's do it!
New Hope Underground is just rolling, man. This is like 4th season, and we're like in episode 50-something.
Pumping it out, man.
We've just been rolling. Content kings.
Some good stories this week.
Oh, great
this
stories.
week, this summer, I mean.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You've had a couple good ones, dude.
Yeah.
Just recently.
It's cool to have some stories like that shared.
Yeah, we've got one coming out with the Jones family. I
Yeah.
think that should be out before this series overview hits. But the other one, it may be a little bit, but you had another good interview too. So, we'll keep it on the down low for a while.
Yeah, several of them. Cool stories coming up. So
We can tell you it was with another Jones.
another
member,
Jones,
Adam
Jones.
Yeah.
And some may not know him because I think he went away to college whenever I first came here, like 15 years ago. Got involved with Cru ministry in college and has done campus ministry.
Yeah, Cru is formerly Campus Crusade for Christ.
Yeah.
So it's like that's a pretty well known.
Yeah. So
ministry.
he's done campus ministry for a long time over in the Kansas City area. He's been a couple different places, but primarily in Kansas City area. Anyway,
which makes him a Chiefs fan, which makes him rub it in all the time every year.
And anyway, he's one of our like global outreach partners that we support. And so for him to be able to kind of share what ministry has been going on through him and even the new season that he's in now with his ministry, which is drastically different than what he'd been doing. And I'm just giving a little tease with that because what he's actually doing is really, really exciting. And even is some foreshadowing of things where we feel God is leading us in the future. So it's just exciting.
No, it's really cool. And you need to get to know our missionaries, the people that we support around the world, actually. So it's really cool.
Yeah, so that's why anytime we operate in the currency of stories. We always talk about stories of movement, stories of God moving in the world, in our lives, in our community. And so we love to spend that currency of stories of movement, try to tell those stories when we can, and those are examples of them. And that's why New Hope Underground exists, is to share stories like that.
Yeah, when we say movement, we mean movement in the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
The fact that someone would come to Christ, the fact that, it says in the Bible, the only time the angels rejoice is when someone comes to repentance or comes to Jesus.
Yeah.
So we want to share those stories. And then also just how people are becoming stronger disciples or making disciples.
Yeah.
That's movement.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and before we get into our series overview, which we're going to be talking about our new series coming up, and I'll let you introduce that in just a second.
Sure.
Let's talk about some important things, and that is I got a new hat.
You got a new hat.
See, right here?
I never know what any of the hats you have represent.
See this? This is cool.
I'm not convinced they actually represent anything.
This is a flying squirrel, just the head of a flying squirrel.
Of course
Richmond, Virginia. Richmond flying squirrels.
I bet if I talked to my family about it, they'd probably, my like in-laws, which my mother-in-law is actually coming into town.
Well, I'm sure they're big minor league baseball fans.
Yeah. Well, I bet my father-in-law
he would know,
and my brother-in-law might be familiar.
Oh, the flying squirrel. I got 2 flying squirrels hats. One is the actual whole body of the flying squirrel. And then I have this one that's just kind of the angry head, which I think is pretty awesome. Anyway.
It looks pretty angry. I'm a little intimidated.
You should be. You really should be. You should be intimidated by an angry cartoon squirrel.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's go on. What introduced the series to us? New series coming up.
Yeah, it's funny. It's been a while since we've done one because we've been in a longer series called Summer on the Mount.
We did that one, but it was so long ago.
Yeah, it was so long ago that it's like you forget, like, oh yeah, other series are coming up because we just spent the whole summer in it. But no, we're getting ready to launch a series coming up through the whole month of August.
I didn't get that. Could you try
My
again?
Siri just wanted to know what we were talking about.
Oh, she didn't get that? I can say it again.
I don't understand why Siri always goes off.
That was super loud.
Let me turn Siri off completely. There you go.
That just means they're always listening. For good or for bad.
That's right.
But so we're starting now that we know Siri is paying attention.
Well, at least we know we have one in the audience.
That's right. We're starting a new series in the that will run through the whole month of August. It is in some ways a bit of a vision series.
Yes.
Actually, I don't know if we're necessarily branding it that way per se, but it really is kind of serving that called Battle Ready, that we're really, really excited about because I don't know. I don't know if it's just the season we're in. I don't know if it's in our culture, or just in our world, that there are battles in the world. There are big battles going on in our individual lives, but then just in the world as a whole. And there's a constant call, even through Jesus in his teachings, but then in the scriptures, about being ready, being prepared for the day of battle, the day of evil. Sometimes that language is used, and so we're going to talk about what does that look like to get ready, to stay ready, and how we can do that together.
And he uses that language a lot for people who are like, if you choose to become a Christian right then.
Yeah.
It's not like necessarily this day that's coming all the time. It's more like that once you decide to follow me, you better be battle ready because it's coming.
Because battles are going to come simply by following Jesus.
Now, we need a big voiceover. I mean, battle ready? Come on. Can you do a good voiceover for that?
You mean like an
introduction? Like,
oh, geez.
Battle ready. You know what I mean?
Battle ready.
Yeah, there we go.
Something like that. Coming this August. We need to get Jonathan
On
to do
Sunday.
Sunday. Yeah. We need to get Jonathan to do it because I still haven't hit puberty yet. So he's got the voice and face for radio.
You're 38, man. I think you should have hit it by now.
I'm 39.
39. Oh my gosh, I forgot.
I'll be 40 this fall.
Oh my gosh, I'm a year behind, dude.
Yeah.
You look so young.
I know.
In fact, I thought 38. I was a year older than what you were.
You're afraid you're going to insult me.
Exactly.
But yeah, so really, really excited about this.
So what's kind of the essence then? I mean, we got 4 weeks in August, and I know we're going to have some special stuff going on a little bit with this series. So
yeah, there's multiple stories and teachings of Jesus where he warns about that, of saying, hey, things can come unexpectedly. I mean, he even talks about his return like that, of saying it will come on a day that you do not know. You don't know exactly when it is. So you must always be ready. You must be prepared. And that, I mean, you can talk about kind of the quintessential day of the Lord or day of evil, or that the great battle or whatever. But the truth is there's microcosms of that in our life all the time.
Yep. That
things hit us, the diagnosis, the job loss, the relationship falling apart, estrangement with a child, a son or a daughter, things like that hit us in ways that we're just not ready for and not expecting. But we do have that enduring promise, surely I am with you always to the very end of the age, that we know God is with us, and we can prepare for those days, that we can be battle ready, that the enemy is constantly at war with us. We think because there's no physical war going on in the world that things are good and life is fine, and we're always pushing to that place of equilibrium and comfort and stuff like that. But the truth is Ephesians 6 talks about we don't struggle with flesh, and our struggle is not with flesh and blood,
right?
But the dark powers of this present age. So it's not even something that's just going to come in the future, that there are powers in the world that are actively warring against us. And I mean, even I was thinking about, in 1 Peter, it talks about abstaining from the sinful desires of your flesh that wage war against your soul. So it's not even just exterior things too. Sometimes the battle that we have to prepare for is the inner battle too. That we have this flesh, we have these desires that are broken and distorted and try to lead us away from loyalty to Christ. And so there's even a war that wages within us too, of like preparing for the day of battle that is within me when I hit those days of temptation or those times of trial or hardship.
I think Peter also says the devil's like a prowling lion, and he says resist. And that active resistance, like resisting arrest kind of thing, like with that battle inside of you.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing I was going to say was you were talking about how there's this big day of the Lord coming, but at the same time, like I was kind of saying, you were also saying about as soon as you become a Christian, I mean, you have this fight going on. It's that already, but not yet. We love that. You and I love that phrase because that really does sum up a lot of New Testament teaching. Yeah. And Old Testament for that matter. But there's this kind of this already, but not yet feeling to a lot of the things that are being taught.
And it's cool because, I mean, that even pervaded the Sermon on the Mount series too. Yeah, yeah. Of just even the nature of what Jesus is teaching in the Sermon on the Mount was that the kingdom has been inaugurated in his ministry, his life, his death, and his resurrection. So we're living in the essence that the kingdom of God is here. He says it's among you. It's in you. And yet at the same time, it's not consummated. that it's not come in full completion. Like the language that I've almost heard is, it's like there was this old age that was present that we're with, but then a new age is beginning to break in, and it's almost like there's an overlap between the two. And as the new age is beginning to enter in, the old one is beginning to pass away. But we still live in this crossover right now where it's like, yes, it's true, the kingdom is here, the new age has come in many ways, but the old one is still here. It is passing away, but it's still here, and we live in the reality of both at the same time.
Wow,
which is interesting. Good. Yeah, I always found that to be like a useful metaphor.
No, that's good. And it just goes to show when you say battle ready, we're referring to both.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole.
It's not just because it's easy to, and I mean, and this is where it can feel a bit more Old Testament. Like it was easy for them to point to the Canaanites and say, those are our enemies, or, these groups of people are our enemies, that to view our enemies as exterior to us, that I can see and touch and point and blame. But then you see the New Testament begin to shift, which actually just revealed a reality. It was already true, but it's revealing the reality that there's unseen enemies around us, but then also, and this is the bad news that precedes the good news, is that you're the enemy too. That the scriptures, Ephesians 2, we were enemies of God, children of wrath. That's who you were, like in our sin, left to our sin. Even though we bore the image of God, though we were children of God, created by God, we bear his image. Because of our sin, like I know a lot of times we talk about sin through the language of disease, like sin is a sickness. But I remember hearing a preacher talk about this, like, yes, sin is talked about as a sickness, but primarily in the Bible, it's talked about as rebellion. You are actively resisting the God of the universe. You are in active rebellion against him. And boy, I got to tell you, I don't like to hear that.
Right.
It's true. But it's like that's the bad news that precedes the good. But while we were still enemies of God, Christ reconciled us to himself. He made peace between us and God through his death and resurrection. And so,
well, the principalities and powers you're talking about, like from Ephesians 6, is they're in rebellion. And they're just pulling us along with them.
And they're trying to incite that in us of like, and that's the kind of the
very first sin is basically being convinced that I can be God.
You don't need God.
Be like God.
You can be your own boss, and God doesn't have your best interest in mind. So go ahead and take the fruit. It's fine. But so there is an exterior battle to us that we need to be ready for. But we don't always realize what it is. I tend to look at my neighbor and think, oh, he's my enemy because he wronged me, but realize that, no, they're the goal. They're not the enemy.
Right.
They're the ones we're trying to win. We want them to be on our team, that Christ wants them to be reconciled to God too. But there's also this inner battle to prepare for of, man, I have all kinds of distorted desires that point ways that don't glorify to God, and what it looks like to crucify my flesh and say no to my desires. Self-denial, which is not talked about a lot.
Who wants to talk about that?
Yeah, exactly. And
it's interesting because to be battle ready in kind of the way that we've been discussing it requires something of us in the sense of, like you said, like self-denial, but also just having this discussion about who the enemy is. Is good for, like, sometimes our world is just so chaotic. And I think the devil's got that kind of plan, you know what I mean? Like, he's all about chaos, and the Bible talks often about chaos in general terms as being referring to this, us going wayward of what God's way is. And then we end up hurting each other, thinking, like you said, thinking we're the enemies. Just being able to line that out better might help. If I understand my neighbor's not my enemy, just think of how that improves the relationship right away.
Yeah, which is why forgiveness plays such a huge part just in human life in general. Because if I'm not willing to forgive, then I'm bitter against this person. I resent them, and then they become my enemy, and then I'm focused on them. And the enemy loves that because he loves to sow seeds of disunity between people.
Now, I'm going to set you up here, but why is this? You mentioned before this somewhat of a vision series. Why is that?
Yeah, and I'll give a little bit of a teaser for those who are watching
Exactly.
and listening.
People that come on here and watch and listen to
I mean,
us,
if you-
they deserve a
Yeah.
teaser.
If they go as far as to go onto YouTube, they deserve
They deserve it.
to get a little
To sit here and
teaser.
watch us two guys sitting at a table talking, you deserve it.
So we are going to talk about just varying dimensions of what it means to get ready for the day of battle, whether that's an outward battle or inward battle. I mean, we're going to cover various things in the series. But then what I'm going to do, and trying to think of the best way to say it without spoiling it, but I also want to wave the carrot a little bit. We're going to talk about what it looks like to get ready together the third week. And this is where I'm going to present a new way of viewing membership in our church in a way that we've never done before. And there's going to be challenge to it. It's going to call us to something higher than we ever have. And it's centered around the idea of membership and what it means to be a member of our church. And so I'm going to unpack some of what that looks like and how I believe that what I feel like God is calling us to around this kind of new season of how we do membership, will help prepare us for the day of battle. It will help us get ready together, essentially. I won't say anything more than that because I don't want to give it away, but there's some exciting things about what it looks like for that.
Well,
So
I think
is that cryptic enough?
No, I think it's important to realize. I think it's good for us to put it out there. It's important to realize that come ready to be challenged.
Yeah.
And come ready to dive in and journey with us.
And what I'm excited about that particular week is, I'm going to present some new ideas, but then it's very tangibly like we have new ministry initiative we're launching this fall that I'm going to unpack in that message, which I gave people a little bit of a teaser at the beginning of the year saying we have some big things that are coming up later this year. And I was like, you'll just have to wait. We'll be unveiling them later in the year.
We're starting to roll them out.
That's what this is.
Yeah, we're starting to roll them out.
I'm going to be talking about that in that particular message, and then I'm going to be announcing us rolling some of that out in the fall. So it's becoming very real, which is exciting. But I also know, man, it's big stuff, and it shifts, and the enemy doesn't want us moving forward, and so he's going to do everything he can to distract or discourage or disunify. But I believe this series is even going to be speaking to some of those things too, to not let us do that.
Yeah, and we also have some special things planned for the last week of the series on August 27th. So,
do you want to give a little teaser?
Yeah,
around
I
that?
think so. I think people that are listening, we're going to hear from people. We want to hear stories of movement, how God has been working in people's lives in various ways, and what it means to be the church. And it's the very challenge we're going to lay out there for us to start to be the church and not just go to church.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That very challenge, we want to let it be known that a lot of people are already doing that in so many ways. And a lot of people are reflecting very truly our core values.
Yeah.
Which is to gather, grow, and go. And we're going to be really hitting that and talking about that. But on that 27th, we're not going to have a sermon. So, but you're gonna hear some really
like,
good
woo,
stuff.
that's great. Yeah. Hold on a second. No, it's just going to be a very, very different thing. We talk about our vision being about wanting to.
No sermon. Oh no, there's no. I thought I had sound going.
You got to turn the volume up.
There we go. I always do that. You do the same thing. Don't you?
I did the same thing to Hope Custer whenever.
I can't make this any louder.
I do not know how to shut Siri off. Go ahead.
Siri, we don't need you to be any louder.
Thank you, Siri.
Anyway, but we talk about our vision being about desiring to see a greater movement of Jesus in each new generation.
Right.
And so, like I said before, so it makes sense that one of our biggest forms of currency is stories. Like that's how we measure success. That's how we know we're accomplishing what God is calling us to do. It's more than just the number of people in seats or how much money is given. Again, attendance and giving and all that stuff, that's great and that's important and that points to some things. But it's like stories of movement of how God is changing people's lives and drawing them closer to Himself.
Yeah.
Man, we don't talk about that enough for how important it actually is. And so that last week is going to kind of point to some of that, which is
awesome.
Which I'm very excited about.
It's awesome. Hey, it's coming. Give me the battle ready. Ready? It's coming.
Battle ready.